No, we have to be really quiet. We don't want them to hear you.
Government.
I knew this was going to happen.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, we'll be, I guess, answering questions about things like how do you get around the city, how do you get out of the city, how should we be fortifying our map, things like that.
And I am the other half of the charrette, which has a French name, so you know you can believe it. Except harder to spell. And yeah, and we can talk a bit about why, at least I think that Edmonton would be an ideal place to relocate and resettle after we take care of the major zombie problem. And only if there's a fantastic new arena downtown.
Yeah. that is key for our survival.
Currently, not in a zombie scenario. In any sort of scenario.
Like Edmonton in general.
Like comet apocalypse, dinosaurs coming back, which is pretty plausible. As long as they're not infected with zombie. As long as no one's saliva's on the dinosaurs. Or they don't use toilet seats. My name is Adam Rozenhart. I'm actually not really sure why I'm here. And that'll become very clear to you in a moment. I also run a blog and a podcast here in Edmonton. The podcast is called The Unknown Studio. And I am deeply fascinated with zombieism, or the genre of zombies. More like obsessed. I'll watch every bad or good movie about it and enjoy them equally. And I recently, as recently as a year ago, started hosting what we call Yeg Zombiers, which is an event where we invite Edmontonians to come out to a bar, watch a zombie movie or talk about zombies, and get hammered.
I like it.
Yeah.
Why haven't I heard this before?
It's been on hiatus for a while. So I'm the Nick Frost of this group. If you're thinking of Shaun of the Dead, I'm the idiot who just wants to drink beer at the Winchester. So and it turned out well for him.
Well, not so much.
He plays video games all day. So yeah, no, I'm Nick Frost.
I'm Trent Wilkie. I write for a sketch comedy group in town called Mostly Water Theater. But what I do mainly is I am sort of an outdoor professional. I guided canoe trips for 15 years. I've taught survival in various parts of Canada. I've spent a lot of time outside and basically have taught survival in various forms, winter camping, everything through to the extreme of just going out into the woods type thing. There's a saying that anybody who should be able to survive outside should be able to walk into the woods naked and walk out fully clothed and drunk. And dandelion beer is not that good, but you can drink a lot of it and it does get you drunk.
But does it get you clothed?
Exactly, you're so dumb. Go ahead, you had a question?
I was just wondering if you knew Connie Godsling.
I don't.
Okay.
That's a highly specific
She is the female part of what he just described.
She's girl Trent.
Oh, I'm actually
or is he?
They're never seen in the same room at the same time.
I'm actually not from Edmonton. I've lived here for, I lived here about 9 years, but originally I'm from Cape Breton and then Ontario to here, so she's probably moving around too if she's any type of outdoor.
Well, she teaches surfing during the winter months in Costa Rica,
It's a seasonal
and then
job.
she's in Alberta for the summer now.
But basically I'll be covering what happens when everything does go down, when people start to accept the fact, if people start to accept the fact that there is a horde of undead people that want to eat what's in your head. And I can cover anything from where to go, how to do it, and how to keep yourself alive and family members alive type of thing. So, yeah. I guess we can just start with questions, if anybody has questions, or we can just talk and talk and talk about nothing and everything all at once. In my opinion, I'll just keep going on what I was talking about.
Or
I have a question.
You can take questions whenever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. I think that. Go ahead, dude.
Just out of curiosity, would any of you guys be able to realistically project how long, like the power grid, water grid, and all that would actually stay running without people to keep it?
Sure.
Well, I think before we get to that, I think we need to define the type of zombie we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is this an I Am Legend type species of zombie that wants to just, eke out a living? We have Will Smith terrorizing now. Is it the Umbrella Corp type of zombie that behaves like I have to admit, of all the zombie movies I've seen, the Resident Evil series is not among them. So, rabid dogs I remember from the video game.
Yeah.
Right? Or are we talking about a Walking Dead zombie that they develop, like, they're rotting basically, so some of them can run, some of them can shamble, and some of them can drag their torsos across the field. So, what do you guys think? What zombies are we dealing with?
Well, should we medically?
Medically,
What
what
do you
zombies
think?
are, if it's a
What's
toilet,
the
if it's a toilet,
That's just the most likely. Medically speaking, each should prepare for the worst case scenario. So which of those three would be the worst case scenario?
marathon running zombies.
Marathon running zombies. Okay,
Make decisions.
Like the Resident Evil ones.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or 28 days later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The rage, fast running, gonna hunt you down.
Oh, that's the word.
I knew this was going to create this, because I can see one of the gentlemen in the audience shaking his head.
But preparing for the worst is the best thing.
What is the definition of a zombie? So originally, like in the shufflings, they're actually unearthed, right? They've actually been buried. There are people who have been buried that come back and but if you look at something like he's talking about 28 days later, it's just a drop of blood in your eye, and suddenly you don't actually die. You just become crazed, like with a bloodlust. So,
So it sounds like we're agreeing that it's not a Romero style zombie.
okay.
It's
So
not
they're
the-
not dead people. They're just people with a
Infected,
virus.
I think.
Okay.
I think that's why Joel's here. That's the only reason.
Viral.
To study corpses coming out of the ground. That's a hot.
To go back to your original question, what's your name, sir?
Scott.
Scott, to go back to your original question, Scott, it would depend on the efficiency of government, the efficiency of the virus or microbe, how well it transmits to another person. And of course, in every scenario that I've ever seen, the government always screws up. So we will assume that they will eventually take over. I don't know how fast. If we're talking about like a 28 days later, where the incubation time is like 10 seconds and you have instant, last rage. In that scenario, how long did it take for a government to fall apart in that movie?
Less than 28 days.
Well, that minutes actually.
Maybe, yeah. So yeah, it would depend. And of course, us being in Alberta with the cold climate, that would probably affect things too as well.
Well, I can comment on the power and things like that. I actually work in the power industry. I'm an engineer working there. So that's one reason you should have me around after the zombies.
Fine, you can be on our team.
But I mean, an average, coal power plant west of town burns hundreds of tons an hour in coal, right? It only has so much sitting there in reserve, so after a week or so, that's gone, and that assumes things are running. But you're going to have people driving into, power poles, knocking out the grid, ruining that. All the water pumps that drive the water system run on the mains, and they have backups, but those run out of fuel soon enough. So like a week or two until there's pretty much nothing, I'd say.
And of course, people abandon their stations
Yeah,
to go be with their loved ones and stuff.
pretty much.
And being mammals will regress pretty fast, I think. There'll be hordes of people who are going to take, like looting. So the idea of government, I think, immediately goes to shit as soon as people get hungry or sick. Because anybody here would probably kill for somebody that they love to keep them alive longer. And that's what I think is the initial thing that's going to happen. People will regress very fast.
So that would be a good idea to make sure we all still vote the years ago.
No, my recommendation would be to get out of the city completely. Wait for this to crumble while the very aggressive people are here in Edmonton or any type of major population. Wait for them to destroy themselves, and while they're doing that, you head north. That's the nice thing about Edmonton. In every movie, in every book I've read about zombies, they do slow down in snow. So the worst thing about Edmonton becomes the best thing about.
Except for dead snow, but those were not.
They were
so
dressed well.
If we're going to start with Nazi zombies, that's a whole. And that wasn't a bloodlust. That was a desire for gold.
Yeah, that was a pirate gold zombie. Swedish story. Period? Question mark? Period.
Why north?
Why north?
Yeah.
Because of, well, basically we are still, and believe it or not, we can actually survive outside very well. We tend to want to be comfortable. But when it comes to actually trying to live, the north would be great, and I recommend actually going into the trees and going up into the trees, which would, you can protect yourself from advantage. We'll always have gravity at our side. Throwing something down is better than throwing something across. Also at night, when the temperature drops a lot, we can come down, forage, scavenge, that type of thing, which we'll have to do. And water might not even be, I don't even know if there would be potable water after everything starts to rot and goes to crap. So it would have to be north. And as in World War Z, one of the greatest things, Peggy from Winnipeg, there's a part in that where they actually just wait for them to get frozen, and then they go, and it's easier to kill a zombie that's frozen in ice than just to chase them down.
Now actually getting out of the city, like, even if your ultimate destination is north, I think really depends on where you are when it happens and where it's localized. I mean, Edmonton has a fantastic advantage in that it is a city that is basically cut in half by a river. We have 5, 6 bridges, vehicle bridges, and then a handful of pedestrian bridges that one could think could fairly easily be barricaded off, or worst case scenario, blown up. To kind of, if not stop, or both. Let's do both. Maybe not at the same time. Get the workers. I mean, I don't think it would stop anything. It would slow things down in North Saskatchewan, very deep, fairly fast river, especially in the spring. So that would make it harder for them to cross. They eventually pushed. And then you've got them in the River Valley, which is a problem in of itself. I mean, there are bears in the River Valley that we know are there, but have never seen.
The thing that always bothered me, or bothers me when I watch zombie shows, is everyone's looking for a car, and they're looking for fuel to put into it. This is the perfect situation to get on your bike, get a little bit of exercise, and get the fuck away from the zombie.
What about your cardio, right?
Yeah, that's number one.
Interesting.
Number one.
Yeah, the River Valley trails actually go from Edmonton, I believe they get down to Devon.
So, and you can go to Sherwood Park a lot, I don't know why you want to.
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask, like, based on your knowledge of Edmonton's, urban infrastructure, how would you get out of the city?
What route?
Yeah, like what
summer or winter?
Yeah.
Let's say
winter.
Let's say it's
PureSpec is ground zero. Let's assume that queuing is ground zero.
Okay.
Okay, it's winter.
This time of year.
Yellow.
I would say the car, well, basically, if you're on foot, you're going to have a few people with you, but everything's going to basically, like you see it in all the movies, it's going to bottleneck, and everything's going to be cut off. There's going to be a lot of honking, because that works.
In every situation.
In every situation, even when I'm sleeping, I honk.
I would, yes, traveling by vehicle, I'd be really hesitant to. I mean, the Henday now, when things are actually still moving and rush hour is horrifying. So once people start dying in their cars, which sometimes I would wish while I'm driving, like unless you're ready to go, which there probably are a few people here who are, and a bag by the door. You're probably best, like you said, bike, car. I would probably want to avoid the major roadways.
I'd say a four-wheeler, if you can get your hands on any type of small bike that has a motor, just drive it until it's done, and then prepare to walk for several days. I just think that I know that people are going to do, when you get out of somewhere, people react to what they know. And they're going to get in their car, and they're going to pile it full of everything, and then they're going to turn out of their driveway, and they're going to stop. Because everybody's going to do that at the same time. There's the Great Panic in World War Z, and that was probably one of the best, wonderful book, by the way, if you haven't read it. But it just shows how humans react, and then they react to their, and we just keep breaking things down. The simplest thing to do is just start walking, put as much as you can in your back, and start walking.
Like Kane from Kung Fu.
Yes, walk through it.
And I mean, cities, no city, Edmonton especially, their traffic systems are not designed for everybody going one place at one time.
That's why we're building the new arena, so some people can go there. It's like a super dome.
So we're heading north. Are we looking for like a small town, or are we just going out to the bush?
You're looking to get away from people. If the zombie doesn't kill you, someone else who's going to want to take what you have will. And I hate to say it, but we'll all do the flip pretty quick when we're hungry at 6.
A great book that explores that sort of is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. It's probably one of the hardest books to read because it's so fucking depressing and overbearing. The film is excellent and totally loyal to the text. So If you want to know how people are going to behave, it's going to get really ugly.
We're mammals, you know what I mean? We are. We can think that we're all top of the food chain and crap, but
I'm thinking of eating Trent right now.
you know, that's for our sex play leaders, man.
So we can go 20 minutes.
It's really
Yes,
broad.
that was pretty good.
Okay.
That was only.
Worst case scenario that keeps me up at night. Zombies are in the streets.
Mhm.
5 minutes until they're breaking down my door. Do I collapse my stairs and live upstairs for 29 days? How well can zombies climb?
I think you're really asking two questions. I don't know. Can zombies climb?
Oh, one.
Worst case scenario, we're going with worst case scenario.
Yeah, like a
Zombie
zombie
pile.
ramp. Also, having worked a bit of construction, I would be careful of just knocking the stairs. I mean, they're not just built to, snap off. You could be causing some structural damage.
Load-bearing damage, yeah, for sure.
But I mean, what are you going to drink and eat while you're up there, right?
Well, so that's why I have everything in the top floor of my house, isn't everybody?
Which leads me to another question. Totally honestly, how many of you are prepared for some kind of calamity, be it zombies or whatever? A few of you. Really?
And the rest of you probably had that fantasy of what you do, right?
Yeah. Or you have a little kit in your car with a flare in it.
Yeah. If you wanted to squirt that to that multi-show.
Yeah.
I've done construction with that last gentleman. I have no faith in him destroying anything. No offense. I've heard that zombies work on a very base instinctual level, and that it could be possible to distract them or confuse them by doing a switcheroo instead of brains, throwing a little cauliflower up there. Just wondering if that could be a plausible situation.
So now we're dealing with vegetarian zombies. Exactly.
How much does it really look like brains cauliflower to them?
Can you rephrase the question? I was distracted by your Angry Bird shirt. And the word cauliflower.
It's the old bait and switch. Throw out some cauliflower and say, there's some brains, guys. The zombies.
Throwing out your neighbor would work better.
I think it's something that has the brain smell on it, so if you were to rub the cauliflower on some brains.
So here's another question. How many of you have jars of brains in it? Okay. This is over. We're
When a person goes down to the primal instincts, or even below that, to like basic animal instincts, which is what most zombies, what I'd imagine, would be, their whole brain shuts off except for the brainstem, which is just basic survival. I imagine that's the same level that lower animals are at. So whatever you think would distract an animal would be probably something good, like movement, light, moving cauliflower.
These are
That would solve the whole shopping problem.
Has out laser pointers and all that.
I have to finish this scar. Blonde lady had a
Well,
question.
okay, so I'm walking out of my house north. I can only take, say, like 6 things. What do I take?
Well, you take someone with you.
So they can take
On my back.
500.
If you're going by yourself, or do you have?
Yeah,
lots of
sure.
partners? If you're going by yourself, well, you would plan to pick up things along the way. So the clothing, basically, you're going to have, the only thing that's going to generate enough heat is going to be your body. So anything that's not cotton kills in the outdoor community. So anything synthetic, wools, whatnot. A couple of candy bars. You don't know how fast you have to go. But while you're on your way out, do some looting, grab a whole bunch of halls with vitamin C.
And a TV.
A TV.
PlayStation.
Anything that you can carry that's not going to stop you from running, if you have to run. Something that's going to protect you. Anything that's easily put into something and taken out of something.
Yeah, what's a good weapon?
Not a crowbar.
Oh.
Not a hammer. Those things get stuck. I don't know if you ever stuck one of those in someone's head before. Let's not do that. That was my grandma's birthday. Swords would work. Swords. I don't know if you know this, but throughout history, swords have killed a lot of people. If you don't have a sword, and even baseball bats, I wouldn't recommend.
Really?
Well, you're trying
So
to.
no cast iron frying pans.
No. Well,
You're gonna get too close. They're heavy.
Yeah.
A gun you're gonna reach, right?
Yeah.
Probably want something with reach, so a sword.
Yeah.
Or a double axe.
Or what they, one of the safest things if you're out lost in the woods is a long pole, sharp end, because if something's coming at you, you can put the pole on the ground and lay down, it will fall on it. So.
Yeah, but that might not stop us on.
No, but at least you have time to say, oh shit.
And I think your talk of looting is why Otto and I advocate more mixed-use neighborhoods. There's not a ton to loot. If you're looking for a sword in a suburban neighborhood.
Yeah. I have a sword on me right now.
Well, I mean, there's swords all over the place. But so yeah, I mean, having those businesses nearby that you can then loot.
I recommend a stick that's long and sharp, so you
And
can
candy
keep it away
bars.
from you and take
Those are the things I'm taking.
Right.
Sharp stick and candy bars.
Absolutely
Well,
ignore the instinct, the modern contemporary instinct to find a mall or a department store.
Yeah.
Because that's where everyone gets
Or a
killed.
pregnant woman. Don't find a pregnant woman.
Yeah.
You're assuming that we're leaving from home. Most of us work 8 hours a day, so
Okay.
you gotta be prepared to work.
You don't have a sword at work?
I need a rule.
I'm an accountant.
So if you're leaving from work, you know, it's like saying, it's like winning the lottery. How do you know when it's going to happen, right? So anything that you can to keep yourself warm, any food that you can grab.
So when someone puts something in the fridge and says, do not take, during the zombie apocalypse, it is acceptable.
Brave enough to eat anything out of the company fridge, that is.
Unless it's moldy.
You want stuff that like candy bars will last forever. That's why I said candy bars.
Depending on how you trade it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Also, they're high in.
Tip them over.
Yeah.
Our other words don't help against that.
Oh, would you not hate to be the guy who died during the zombie apocalypse by knocking it?
You're not dead, you're just like very hurt. The zombie's just like, fuck yeah.
Machine zombie.
Some guy's like got 2 swords and like a bag of candy bars.
But his arms and legs are
Everyone just gets so sad.
So if I'm leaving from work and I'm working in an office tower, do we assume that some kind of fire happens because the looting begins immediately and so people have to take the stairs?
Yeah.
So just work from home for the love of God.
You can stay calm.
With your sword at your side.
Yeah.
And I would say don't board yourself up in one of those office buildings, because like a tall building like that takes a ton of maintenance that you never see, and in a couple weeks, you can have some serious problems.
Not only that, but photocopier toner is really gross.
That's a myth that you can smoke.
Well, you can smoke it,
But
it's really bad.
You two mentioned that after the apocalypse happened, Edmonton would be a good place to sort of resettle. Why?
A couple of reasons. One, the very basic needs that you would have for food and heat, Edmonton has in good supply. We've got a lot of good farmland near the city. The river valley itself is actually a microclimate, so it's got more frost-free days and sandier soil than even up at, say, this level. Many people don't know this, but the town, like Beverly, the neighborhood, used to be its own town, and it was a coal mining town. There is apparently still coal underneath.
Same, and along the river valley.
Along the river valley, which is why it floods.
There's actually a lot of reasons why we get potholes in the city.
Yeah, that and the fact that we're on clay, so don't dig.
There's a spot in the river valley that was noted for the brickwork.
Yes, it's called the brickyard, actually.
It has clay there that is really suitable for making building bricks.
There we go. It's got a lot of those raw materials. And as well, once again, going back to the river, the reason that people settled here was the river. It makes it easy for trade, which eventually you would hope at some point would continue again. As well, it's a major rail line, and those rail lines, I would think that would be our primary method after the apocalypse is over.
I disagree. I think dirigibles.
So yeah, it's got some horrifying disadvantages as well, because it's bloody cold around here a lot. But I think, in general, it'd be a more attractive spot than many others in this country.
We could take over a lot of the stuff from Fort Edmonton as, you know, it's primitive farm equipment, but it works without electricity.
And we also have an army base.
Yeah.
Like a big army base with a lot of people who usually train to kill things.
Hopefully they don't become zombies.
I was gonna say.
And also Edmonton is, as far as a large city goes, it's not that large. It's not that large. So there's a lot of stuff crammed into areas. And afterwards, getting everybody together, which is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to start from the beginning. There won't be any suburbs, which would be nice. You get everybody together, and you give them menial jobs, you keep them busy, and having them in a core like this would be perfect.
And we can use the arena as a giant crematorium.
Exactly. Or we can go skating.
Good use. I thought that was the that and hockey. Yeah. Chris, did you have that?
Yeah, I just want to maybe ask a question that takes us away from looking at it at an individual level and maybe shifting it to sort of a policy and planning perspective. If you were, say, a government official and in charge of things when this whole thing went down, what percentage of your resources do you divert to keeping people safe versus, you know, finding a cure, or like at what point do you sort of cut your losses and say, well, this is like it's happening and we're just gonna, you know, give up, I guess, on society as we know it, versus sort of fighting it and trying to keep people safe while keeping their sort of intellectual capital working towards finding a cure. Because I think that's sort of, in my mind, that's sort of the primary way to get out of the whole thing is you're going to need to find a cure one way or another at some point.
The problem with that goes into, you know, every living being on the planet can become a zombie, right? So you have a mass constantly growing.
Is that the rules we're operating on?
Every living person, let's say.
I would also, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it not possible that just like some people don't get like the flu, some people will be immune to it?
Yeah, like
Will
Smith.
Yeah. So weeding out those people and giving them a fiefdom, I think, is the first thing to do. But the thing is that what everybody would here would eventually become, because everybody here would die, and thus going by the zombie rules, you would become a zombie when you die for whatever reason. So you have an army that's constantly building, and a group of people that are trying to solve that. They are eventually going to become what they're trying to solve.
It's like pissing up road.
Yeah. You can do it.
You try to get piss all over yourself.
It would just be, it would be if you have the means, if you have the power, if you have the protection, but that's a lot of, that's like 99% of the people having nothing and 1% having everything. It's like a double irony.
Back there.
This is actually a question for Joel. So in this sort of a viral apocalypse type thing, would it be better to try and find a cure or just flat out quarantine and exterminate? Like, is it like if we kill all the zombies, effectively it dies, right?
That would depend on how efficient your resources are, how much urban structure is still existing. If lights are on and air is on, you're always protecting yourself in a lab. Sure, go for the cure. But if you have a refugee camp and then one zombie makes its way in there and then starts spreading disease, and now you're like a handful of people and your place is going to overrun.
Just wipe them out.
That's what they did in one unnamed show. I don't want to give away too much, but they essentially just gave up and started napalming the streets because they were trying to cut their losses to kind of quarantine.
Yeah.
Korea.
That was last episode.
I know. I didn't want to, just in case people didn't see the show.
Oh yeah, it's sort of a follow-up to Chris's question, but
The policy question.
Yeah. If there were a government policy put in place to prepare for the zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
Funny story. One of the jokes that we always said at the Zombiers that we used to do was that we should draft municipal legislation to present to City Council. And I actually have 2 councillors who would bring it forward if the council meeting is on April 1st. That does basically what the CDC has done, and they did this. They prepared a tongue-in-cheek document that tells you how to get ready for this. What would such policy say? I don't know, I think it'd be a lot of nuclear launch codes, you know, dust-offs pulling all the really smart and important people away. Probably not in Edmonton, I'm sorry to say. I bet, you know, that's probably going to happen in Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah.
Maybe Ottawa. Maybe, but
I don't know, Edmonton is a pretty good.
You have big research.
I was gonna say, you have big research.
That's true, but I don't know. If that's the way the rest of the country sees it. I think the contingency plan is get the best people out that we can if they're not already zombies, and let's try and start something else. And I do think it's containment and a lot of, unfortunately, fire.
And that's why my perspective is just, if you want to survive, you can only take care of yourself. You can't expect anybody else to pass a policy that will protect you. It's sort of one person on their own. You're better off with 3 people as opposed to 1 person, I think. But it is a self, you know, you go off by yourself and protect
Well, what
yourself.
size is a good group?
You're going to have breakdowns in any type of group over 10. What you need is a social structure. You need a leader, be it a matriarch or a patriarch. Usually in the situation that I'm describing, a matriarch is far better than a patriarch because there's more longevity to the idealism. So if someone's going to push about 5 months from now as opposed to tomorrow morning, let the guys fight over what they're going to kill and eat. And the social interaction has to be positive and has to be culture-based so that everybody can keep their mind off of the fact that they're not getting in their sleep.
And hopefully you've got at least, you know, one sexy co-ed, someone who can crack wise.
One guy who's mysteriously sick for no reason at all.
Yeah. but they all need to at least be able to contribute.
Yeah.
So my construction friend has just had an interaction with a zombie.
You're dead, man.
What are some key signs I look for that would tell me to take measures to prevent his transformation immediately?
Looking at your head and saying, "Are you going to eat that?" That's sign number 1.
Chunks of throat missing?
Okay, here's a subtle one, but redeeming for past sins.
So if he apologizes,
if he's doing 12 steps, he's got a little blood on his arm.
That's like an 86% prediction rate. Like if somebody, they're gonna die soon.
That's actually interesting. Or if he's getting really drunk and bleeding.
And you don't have any alcohol.
Yeah, if he's drinking mouthwash.
I would imagine loss of coherence slowly over time. Fever is definitely something the body's trying to fight. So inflammation, fever, swelling, complains about pain, even though there's nothing physically moving or touching this person. What's the 4th sign for
really
inflammation?
Heavy soundtrack.
Yeah.
Mood.
So if they've had their flu shot and they have the flu, you blow them away.
Well, you don't want to get the flu.
The flu would become a sign. That's a toughie.
That would be the worst though, false positive like that. No, dude, seriously, it's just the flu. Yeah.
It's fighting all the flu symptoms.
Yeah.
I trust him.
Well, that's the body fighting infection.
Well, but that's the danger, isn't it, right? Like, I mean, like, let's put ourselves in the situation where we do have a friend who is getting sick. I mean, we joke about saying we're just going to just off them immediately, but you know, you wouldn't. In reality, you wouldn't. You keep them around. You try to look for a cure, and you try to.
And depending on who they were, you would even kill someone who tried to kill them.
That's right.
You might even take all your friends who started to turn and put them into, say, a barn.
I already talked
just out of curiosity, from a medical standpoint, if somebody in the government got an itchy trigger finger or whatnot and decided to pull the nuclear option, would that actually work from a radiation standpoint of killing off biological hazards like the zombie virus?
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one, depending on if they were in the blast, probably.
Well, yeah, I'm just talking from radiation kits. The blast itself is powerful, but it doesn't actually cover that much area. It's the radiation that is considered the more dangerous of the killer when it comes to a nuclear option, but would that radiation actually be perceived as a threat to large masses of zombies?
Say no.
It would depend if it's a virus or a prion.
If it's
If it's a living
Go
virus,
with
yeah.
the virus. Okay, if it's a virus, not living by itself, but requires a living cell, takes over that cell, reprograms it to make more viruses. Then in itself is kind of like a cancer. Loosely speaking, radiation can cause cancer itself. So depending on the dosage of the radiation, it may have no effect, or it may completely destroy the whole viral replication process. Obviously, the closer you are to that epicenter where the nukes are, the more, I would imagine, the more effective killing off anything infective you would be better off being close to that bomb than further away.
So you trade zombieism for radiation poisoning.
Would we get radioactive zombies?
I'd have to say, yeah. I'm going to say that they're going to grow bigger.
We would call them Teenage Mutant Ninja Zombies.
So easier to see in the dark.
Yeah, the glow.
Like the heavy breathing was
Zombie nightlights.
What's the, as someone, like we're talking about the flu, but then what's the danger of like corpses walking around? What are you gonna catch from corpses other than being zombified? Like what's the danger of getting sick from other things?
I see what you did.
Heavily unexplained.
Well, it would any type of rotting corpse or anything like that. If there's a bunch of people dying near the river valley, that water is useless. So boil water, I guess. But that's why I say get out of the cities, get out of where people are, because yeah, that spreads disease. You got trench foot. You got geriatric profanity disorder. Oh shit, there's a litany. People become left-handed.
The amount of work that goes into making the water that we drink now drinkable is insane. There's a ton of it, and it will not be going on. Like, no one is going to be, well, zombies, but I still got to put in my shift.
I will not be.
So once you add corpses into the mix,
yeah.
Don't drink what comes into your tap, basically.
Yep. Say worst case scenario, you are stuck in the city, you can't get out. Where in Edmonton would be a good place to hole up until, say, you can get out?
Well, that's the original question that he said about holding himself up in his, and I would say stick to where you know.
Yeah.
Stick to where you know, stick to where you know things are, where you know your food is, where you know the layout of your house, that type of thing. And that's, I would just say do, and again, small groups of people. You know, don't show a lot of people that you don't keep having a nice, let's not have a fire in the morning and plumes of smoke coming out of your house. You know
Don't
what I mean?
crank the stereo up and let people know you're
Yeah,
there.
don't listen to Def Leppard at 10.
Actually, don't listen to Def Leppard.
But I'd say stick to where you can protect yourself, where you know everything is.
But I still think most people are going to have that impulse too, because whenever we joke about it when we're talking about it over beers, it's let's find a building that's made of concrete. It's got like a concrete structure. You know, it's going to last a while. I don't know a lot of buildings with concrete structures that I know really well, where I know where the food supplies are, where I'm certain that I'll be able to get up and down and you know left to right.
Actually, if you're looking for concrete building, Edmonton is the place to be.
Yeah.
In the 70s, they're actually very famous for modernist architecture, which you can see a lot of the Stanley Mills Library downtown. Very stark, concrete, small windows. Yeah. Well, no,
That's the newer stuff.
That's the newer stuff. But I mean, the older stuff that we're seeing now, I mean, the law courts, the Stanley Miller, a lot of the apartment buildings around the city, it's ugly as sin, but it's fairly good to fortify.
But as mentioned before, it's fairly likely that those fantastic new CF-18s that the government's bought are going to be scrambled and deployed to bomb the cities. So yeah, stay home because you know where the food is, but get the fuck out of your house. I really think the conclusion there is if you're stuck at home and you can't leave the city, your days are more numbered than everyone else's.
Because sickness will get you if the zombies don't, or lack of food.
Yeah, you'll starve.
Or you'll kill yourself. The first thing that you do when you're lost in the woods is you find You don't find water or food or anything like that. You find a place where you're protected. And not to protect yourself, because your brain is the first thing to go. You start running in circles, you start to worry about yourself, but you gotta find a nice place where you're calm and you can just start thinking about what you have to do next. So that's why I say home, but yeah, like this is the first place they're gonna bomb, wherever the biggest amount of zombies are, that's gonna be the first place.
Yeah.
This is a question for Joël, in your professional opinion. What strain of virus, like where do you see it starting? Which is it, the avian flu? What is it?
Something highly transmissible, something probably something that's airborne, would be my guess. Like a coughing. That's a good question. I'd probably assume something that would be very highly infectious. Like an
So
airborne
would it
disease.
start with like animals and move? So SARS, H1N1.
If I would have to suspect, I would probably start in a government facility somewhere.
Well, what are you working on?
Can we stop?
This is the cry for help, he wants us to stop him.
Like a weaponized kind of virus. Something like, I don't think a natural virus would mutate. It would be something that would be engineered with the help of someone like the government or the CDC.
You're saying we want to stay away from that biolab near South Campus, the provincial building.
I cannot confirm or deny.
The other thing we're not
here first.
The thing that we're not thinking about, which we discussed before this panel, is that like in books like World War Z, it's a virus ultimately, but it's also, I believe it starts as a magic somewhere under the ocean that a diver disrupts. Yeah, that's right. And so you know, it might be a monkey or it might be a toilet seat, or it might be magic, in which case we're all.
And everybody knows that the Earth has basically cleaned itself out a few times over, you know, with an ice age or whatnot, and who knows, we've lived through that, and maybe the planet might just get sick of us. So we'll have to create something on its own.
The old heave-ho.
Yeah, I like to call it heave-man.
So is this zombie strain likely to get into, you know, other than humans? Like, do we have to worry about zombie squirrels?
If you're worried about zombie squirrels.
Yeah, no, but like a lot of diseases, okay, there's the whole thing like.
Because it is a mammal, is it a mammalian thing? Is it anything?
Yeah, like.
Usually,
okay, rabies will cross species.
Yeah, there isn't a whole lot of diseases that exist out there that'll go between one species to another, and for the most part they don't, which is why avian flu and swine flu was such a huge deal, because it very rarely ever happens. The reason why rabies, we're aware of it because it's able to infect cells and bind to cells that have common surface receptors between humans and dogs and bats, I guess.
And squirrels.
And squirrels, yes. Do squirrels get rabies?
Yes.
Okay.
We're rabies about
Good
that
Lord.
in rural areas.
Can I get an unprofessional
Please,
opinion?
please do so.
No, others can't get it, because that'd be really unfair.
So you're saying the dungeon master's just being a prick?
Yes.
How much could the zombie virus spread through the water supply? Like if there's zombies up in the mountains, would that ruin all the groundwater? And if so, what are some ways of getting water, avoiding the groundwater supply?
Boil everything.
And when it rains, put a giant barrel outside.
And then boil the barrel.
And then boil the
And the water in the barrel just.
That's kind of an interesting image, though, like zombies and jaspers just pissing into
Will boiling get rid of a virus, though?
Yeah.
Most of the water that we do have here does come from the mountains. So I think, yeah, you'd be screwed, I think is the answer.
Yeah.
Without the boiling. Without the boiling. But does boiling kill viruses?
Yeah.
It kills most of them.
Yeah.
Most?
I think it kills viruses. Boiling doesn't kill everything, though.
It's the best, easiest way.
Well, it depends how long you're boiling.
Yeah,
Boil,
it
a
has to be
surefire way to
5
kill anything is to burn it. To burn that mofo. That's why we incinerate all medical waste, because that's the only way we can guarantee that nothing infectious gets put into the waste. You can't really burn water. So boiling, if you had another option, boiling would be your best hope. Sorry, your second best hope. Your best hope would be the rain barrel thing. We're doing that whole
distilling
and eating and drinking the dew off the leaves.
There's the one that causes what they call beaver fever.
Giardia?
That's a
Yeah,
spider.
not when you're supposed to boil for like half an hour or something.
So Giardia landia is a spirochete found basically just from other animals.
Yeah.
So you're drinking something that's going to live in your intestines. So I know that boiling kills them.
Yeah,
And
it's
you just got to bring it to a boil.
Yeah.
There's no magic in it, as long as it's boiled.
So what you're saying is getting the zombie out of the well is just.
That was like 2 weeks ago.
Just watched that last night.
Oh, good.
No spoilers, but yes.
So would, Boston Internet, the local pool to pick up a couple of cleaning supplies to help sterilize the water, be a good step on the way out?
I would say no. You know the emergency tablets that they sell at like Coughlin's, they have the iodine? That's an emergency tablet, so over an amount of time it's going to perforate your colon and your lower intestine. So anything that you don't get, well, it used to be cool. Kids don't like it anymore. It's like smoking Smarties, that's last week.
You smoke everything?
If you can light it on fire. But unless you know exactly what you're doing to the water, you might create a problem that wasn't there. So
you're back there.
At the very back.
Is there a way to increase shelf life of things like penicillin and antibiotics, essentially? Because a lot of times they tend to have like a 30-day shelf life or something like that. You're not going to be mass produced, but I'm sure it certainly can be later on.
Antibiotics last a very long time. The reason why there's an expiry date is because they don't want you taking things when you're healthy, because it can cause resistance.
We also want you to replace the stuff you haven't taken by buying more.
As well, yeah. And of course, you shouldn't have any antibiotics left in your cupboard.
No, but if
you're
you're
supposed
just
to full
saying,
regimen.
break into a house or something like that.
The storage rules apply to anything. Keep things away from light, keep them away from moisture, keep them in the dark in a cool place, and that will extend the shelf life of pretty much your antibiotics, your Oreos, anything. Yeah.
Tetracycline actually becomes toxic after a while. But those specifically, the rest has become less potent. So you might take more.
You lose in potency.
If you get bit on the hand, and it's just not the hand, they're not torn you into pieces, they're just one small bite on the hand, should you chop your arm off?
I would say yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can, replace it with a chainsaw.
So we're here to set him up, and he's here to
that question was actually a plan. No, I mean, I would think at that point, you lose him.
If you know.
Your hands, but...
But then you might, if you don't have the ability to control your hands at one point.
How quickly would it spread through your bloodstream? If it bit your finger, would you have to chop off your wrist or the whole arm?
Mushrooms take like what? Like 4 hours.
But it only gets into your bloodstream.
Smoking, when you smoke something, it gets into your bloodstream really quick.
Don't smoke a zombie. Don't you have a real answer?
That would depend where the bite took place. If it's like a major artery or vein, obviously that's instant. Like 20, 30 seconds for it to go into your whole body. It depends on your theory of infection control, right? What you believe. There is the 2-hour theory, there's like the snake bite theory where you suck out the poison, and there's also like the rage virus theory where you have literally 20 seconds before you turn into someone that you're no longer able to comprehend. So just chop it off just in case.
At the back there.
Question for, I guess, clothing-wise, to prevent something like a bite on the hand, should we all be going out and buying, let's say, sharp chainmail armor?
Really deeply knit wools are fairly, leather's really good, works for animals.
Chainmail's going to slow you down.
Yeah.
Chainmail doesn't actually work against penetrating.
Yeah, it's more
like bodkin points, which are arrowheads about this long that look like knitting needles, are to go through chainmail, so are fangs.
Zombies don't shoot those, right?
No,
I'd say go to the Value Village. If you want clothes that are going to work, don't go to Mountain Equipment Co-op or any place like that. Go to Value Village because they obviously have clothes that are over 20 years old. And they're going to last. It sounds funny, but it's go those really thick wool pants. I work for Mountain Equipment Co-op, so. Anything that's going to that is made to last. Leathers and wools, because wool will be an insulator. It's also, when it's wet, it still insulates as opposed to cotton, which basically just saps your body calories. And leather has a natural waterproofing. So you're going to basically stop the wind and the rain with the leather and protect your body with the wool. Get itchy. But I'm guessing, well, I know that those things are pretty hard to bite through. A lot of bear attacks and whatnot. There's a lot of crushed limbs. But usually when you're wearing a lot of wools and a lot of leather, there's no penetration.
So it's going to be really good for people who are into steampunk.
Yeah.
That would be another one of those places you want to avoid.
Yeah, because that's everybody's going to go there, right? And that stuff gives you diarrhea. It's not that you eat. Yeah. Like the clothes you eat at night give you diarrhea.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to extend on the gentleman's question over there. Now I've been bitten and I've turned into a zombie. How do I track down the last fire?
Well, you whistle. You walk around whistling. Instead of saying brains, you go.
Be nonchalant.
Yeah. And if there's chalant around, dodge it.
You're going to need to do a little bit of prep work, so I'd start now. The city actually has an open data catalog where they have the locations of every police station, hospital, and school in an easy-to-read spreadsheet form. Memorize it. There you go.
Because you don't want to be walking around with this being
No. Also, your printer's not going to work during the apocalypse.
So memorize.
And what about your smartphone?
Well, that assumes cell towers.
It also depends who you're with.
Yeah.
Rogers, and they don't work. Now, if you've got one of those TELUS mic phones, maybe just hold on to it. Also the walkie-talkie. Yeah, those would be okay. Probably. Yeah.
All right, assuming post-apocalypse, people are surviving, whatnot, trade, I'm assuming, is going back to bartering. What would be the most precious, easily to transport commodity to kind of stock up on?
Anything with vitamins, hulls with vitamin C. Scurvy is what killed out a lot of people when they first moved to North America. They were eating a lot of meat, drinking a lot of water, they weren't eating a lot of veggies. So anything, or they weren't eating a lot of fruit either. So anything with vitamin C. Any type of, I don't know, vitamins do have a shelf life. So I'm guessing something that's like a synthetic vitamin C might last longer than real vitamin C. I have no idea. But anything that's going to be what is missing from the aftermath. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to just figure out what most likely would be vitamins.
Now, I don't want to see anybody being zombie profiteers, okay, guys? Morality and decency.
Yeah. We've already established that will not happen. And everyone's going to go batshit crazy.
It takes teamwork to make a dream work.
But team spells meat.
You need him in control of the level.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to sit down, you go.
Zombie apocalypse happens, it's a bit of a bummer, and your regular guy is
A little bit of flat time, a little bit of
not available there. So, any suggestions on where you can find stuff that, to help alleviate the mood?
Oh, you mean like a joke book?
Yeah.
You start with knock-knock jokes. You start with your basic sense of humor, some knock-knock jokes.
I believe a red light district would pop up pretty quick.
Yeah.
If that's what you're asking.
Our jokes are always going to be fun.
Oh yeah, do the zombies first too.
Hilarious. Hey, it works today. Right? You're all over the age of 5.
Imagine when we're all on the edge of going bonk.
Yeah. No, this is the Margaret Atwood. What do you think?
So aside from comedian, what would be the best post-apocalyptic profession?
Brooding swordsman.
Impregnator for hire. Any type of leather work, any type of sewing, clothing is going to be, we won't be wearing any of this. We're wearing basically everything compiled into a pile and take the best parts of it.
I think farming as well.
Yeah,
So start your garden.
Yeah.
Start working your community garden.
Animal husbandry.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, any kind of medical skill would be obviously always in demand. I mean, people are still going to be falling over.
Yeah, but medical skills back then, like cut that off,
But
cut that off, cut that off.
As Trent has said before, and you've probably never heard him say this, but he said it to me, if you can sew pants, you can sew an arm back. It looks fine.
Have a different mind. I'd say anything that is just, it's just, we're going to regress, right? We're going to hit like 300 years ago, 400 years ago. And what was, you know, being able to tell people your ideas about stuff is going to be the first way to get your ass kicked. It's about functional application. Can you sew? Can you, can you build something? Carpentry? Any type of like weapon making? You know, understanding different, like getting rid of plastics. Well, but yeah, anything.
That's what's going to contaminate our drinking water.
Exactly,
the plastics.
Yeah. And our urine.
And zombie. Mountain zombie urine.
For farming, is there anything you want to do to the soil to kill a zombie virus but still keep the soil fertile?
These tomatoes are really aggressive.
Don't fertilize the zombies.
Yeah. Don't fertilize with dead people. I don't think there'd be a whole lot of virus living in the soil, would be my guess. Because the virus would want to go, it would survive best in living tissue, human tissue. So unless you're farming dead zombies, that should be okay.
Which actually goes back to the other question about best profession.
Yeah.
Zombie farmer.
Zombie rancher.
Find a zombie.
You could shear them for wool.
This is just skin.
Leather.
It's so warm.
Fine Corinthian leather.
Corinthian. Was he Greek?
It's all Greek to me.
Okay, assuming, this is just a wild guess, but assuming the virus can mutate human bodies like Left 4 Dead, what would be the most likely mutation to happen?
Squirrel appendages.
Oh, that'd be adorable.
Zombies will get adorable fast.
It'd be like a deformation.
Yeah.
Like it probably wouldn't be helpful.
No. Just fall apart.
It'd be random mutations. So giant eye, large arm.
So not the 60-foot tongue that could pull you across a building.
Yeah.
Probably
That'd be cool.
What I'd like to know about zombies, and I'll ask a question of the panel. They say you're supposed to destroy the brain, right? What if you just take its mouth off? It's just going to gum you.
No, what if you take
Yeah, what's
you
going to
scrape its teeth against
You
it?
pull its face off.
Right? It's true.
You take this whole thing out.
But wouldn't destroying the brain just be easier?
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm not an amateur gynecologist. I'm not a dentist.
Honestly, if you're in the heat of battle, such as it is against a zombie, and you're like, I gotta remove his sword. and we've determined that a sword is probably the best weapon to have, so let's assume you have one of those. I don't think you're gonna be like,
what if it's a loved one? What if it's me?
Use a spoon.
steak knives.
Next serious question, please.
Where do babies come from?
No, okay, baby related though.
Yeah.
Because at some point, I would think that to rebuild, we're going to need to repopulate, right?
That's what you're always thinking.
Where can I set up a stand?
Start with a kissing booth.
Third base.
If a zombie apocalypse doesn't get me laid, I mean, because I think you want to establish some sort of sustainable survival, you know, camp or whatever you want to have, but sort of, like, are you waiting a year before you start baking it?
I think that it's just going to naturally happen with groups who are, I don't know if you know about this, but there was a, remember the blackout in Toronto? There was a population jump. 9 months ago. So when people,
population.
So procreation is going to naturally happen. If it's going to be beneficial or negative, who knows? I'm thinking that something that is born during something is going to have stronger immunity to what's going on during it. I don't know if that's true or not, but usually. Okay. So nothing. We just make them.
Keep trying that, guys.
Yeah.
Like a little 5-year-old adorable baby.
I'm gonna get the teeth out of them.
Like in terms of being pregnant, like you don't want to be pregnant during your zombie apocalypse.
I don't
I don't want to be pregnant.
Like your immunity levels and stuff like that, the other thing.
But it's going to happen, right? So you need a support
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
like you would if you were pregnant today. You need a group of people that are going to protect you, help you, when you need it. It's just it just keeps reverting back to depression and a million responses. So try not to get pregnant.
Really?
That goes back to the bartering system. Stock up on condoms. Valuable trade.
So zombies are just basic instincts, and a mammal's basic instinct is to procreate. Will zombies mate?
I've never seen a movie where zombies mate. I've never seen a book.
Wasn't that implied in I Am Legend? Like,
Was, yeah.
The lady zombie?
Were they zombies?
I don't know. It's kind of a
They
weird
had
one, I guess.
they're like zombie
like
in the actual book they were vampires.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of
so they weren't. Yeah.
Which everybody knows.
Dead Alive, the zombie baby, that priest and
Yeah.
the zombie priest and that zombie chick have.
Damn it, Margo.
It's operating like a virus, isn't there reproduction just breeding more people?
That is the reproduction.
Okay. If it's a virus.
Why would you have a baby when you can bite one and it's yours? Why could you have a baby when you can have a baby for breakfast?
That's actually a good idea, because now you already know what it looks like.
That one's cute.
Yes. I want the laughing one. He's real neat.
That one cries too.
He's been named. I'll have to deprogram.
Yeah.
Is there any way, in worst case scenario, to prepare raw zombie flesh to stay alive but not get infected? You're trapped somewhere, all there is for food is dead zombies.
I would say no, especially if we're talking about tissue that's basically necrotized, so it's started to rot. I don't know about you. You ever had a bite of rotten meat?
No.
You would immediately
know it.
And you'd get sick from it. So I don't think they're.
You can eat up to 25% of your own body if you don't start with your brain.
Fact.
Actually, there's a Stephen King story where a guy starts to eat himself because he doesn't have food. And I don't know if that would be healthy in the long run.
There's an economic theory called the law of diminishing returns.
It's also called generation loss.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask a question. Where would be the best place to start? You said not the brain.
Well, no,
but
I would go with pinky toes, your fingers.
I want meat here, though.
But still, it's better than no. Like the amount of, if you have nothing, a little thing is everything.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we'll get off the cannibal stuff.
We have 5 more minutes? Okay, 5 more minutes.
Yeah, you're going to be scrounging. There's not going to be any meat. Everybody's going to be vegan or vegetarian.
Now, you're saying there's not going to be any meat, but what about the other guy?
It's proven that cannibalism will work in the short run, but not in the long run. Well,
we haven't really tried.
I never really invested in it.
If I'm not mistaken, there are certain diseases that you can get by, like, specifically for human flesh.
Basically, the idea behind mad cow disease is that cows are eating their own.
But isn't that just brain matter?
There's tribes that they were doing studies.
Brain and
people
nerve
had
tissue.
this.
Stay with the large muscle group, you can cannibalize any of them.
Note to self.
Stay away with the guy who knows way too much. Another thing you want to know about eating.
Funny story.
We have about 4 more minutes. Any other questions from the experts?
Okay, quick question. So when people die, do they float or do they sink? So could you go on water, or are zombies just going to float out to you and get you?
Do we float or do they float?
Well, like once you start to, like once a person dies, do they sink or float?
They
sink for a bit, then they float.
The reason why you see floating corpses, like the reason corpses will float eventually is because their internal normal flora will produce gases, and that gas is obviously lighter than water, and that's what causes them to float. If corpses sink, it's because they've lost all the air inside their lungs, so it's not filled with water, and that gets them to sink.
So if it's a non-perforated zombie, it may rise to the top.
There was that one movie where that zombie fought that shark.
Yeah, why haven't I seen it?
I have no idea. It's like Swedish or something.
Of course.
Of course.
It's Italian.
Italian.
So that's where a bow and arrow would be good, because if you see the zombies dog paddling across the lake, puncture them and they should pop and sink.
And most times of the year, the river is about 2 to 3 meters deep. So if something's on the bottom, it's probably not going to be able to reach you. Unless you got your legs in there, which I would recommend.
Lady with the hat.
Just build on Mike's question. If I can make it to the coast, build a water world, head out to sea, fish, get the rain, all that jazz, is that actually a good option?
Only if you have Kevin Costner.
I don't know if you've ever been to the ocean. The ocean is one of the most toughest environments. Like on the ocean is one of the most toughest environments to live.
Even on the coast, it's pretty brutal. Like,
there's no protection.
No.
You have so much rain and water. So, and people are going to just flock there. The coasts have a lot of heavy populations. So people are going to be going to shipyards. They're going to be going to try to find a way. I guess if you're pretty smooth with being able to make a makeshift raft, I would say lakes are a little better, like larger lakes, because you also have water. But if you're thinking about getting off land, I would go with a lake as opposed to an ocean. So I would head east. But if you're on the coast, I still feel like go up in the snow. The snow is going to be the best protector of anything, because it'll just slow anything that has any type of liquid in it down. Except for us, because we got a generator built in, right? So it's still protecting the generator.
Yes.
If you just start a transcontinental flight, where should you tell the pilot to go if like the zombie apocalypse comes when you didn't start?
Are we assuming we're leaving from a coast or?
From Alberta, maybe. But
Well, it's going to land probably, not going to land in, if it can't land in an airport, it's going to land on a highway, and it probably won't be able to land on a highway because it's going to be full of cars. It's probably going to find a farmer's field. That'll be up to the pilot.
Oh yeah, but like if it has, they already have enough supplies to go for a transcontinental flight.
Yeah.
Where would you go? Like to some island?
So you're in a contained area that's already basically protection, and you have a savvy pilot. I would recommend the pilot go away from all the cities, because you already have a lot of food, you already have protection from the elements, you already have a house. Try to land it properly without destroying the thing, because that's actually that'd be a pretty good way to survive longer than everybody else, because you're already with a group of people, you already have supplies. Somewhere cold, or somewhere that gets cold.
Like Baffin Island, for example?
Yep. Yeah, that'd be really good. Anywhere, yeah, somewhere like that. So
you still crash landing like a work camp.
Fishing waters.
Many of them already have runway facilities. They're food and stuff. They're generally deserted.
Yeah. Because those guys would come down to see their families. Because what's going to happen? Everybody's going to go, oh, zombies. And they're going to run to their family. Yeah. Mom, are you all right? Blam. People will go to their families. So these places where people work will be deserted, hopefully, unless it's a hospital.
So we've got 1 second. Is there hope when the zombie apocalypse happens? Is there hope, guys? Yes, no.
We could be the zombies.
I'd say yes, as long as you keep away from the heavily populated areas.
I'd say yes, as long as I get to hang out with this guy. Thank you very much, you guys.
Google CDC, Zombie Apocalypse. It's a fantastic graphic novel. And actually, you can actually learn something about it. Very important aspect.
Well, actually, a bunch of years ago, and I went to school, so now I came back. You know, the step room area. What do you do besides that? That's why I'm a policy, yeah. I know. Like, maybe like listening to profession. She's like, I think you can use it. Because they so my videos are gone, my fonts are gone. She was doing a hard spot. Stupid keyboard layout that we have.
Okay, what can Gary
17 Gary. How much did you get back? 650 Garys. That was good question.
It's gonna be crazy. It's like, oh yeah.
Dave's over there.
So this goes on.
Not quite, but that's what you do in the other small theory.
So you have to balance your.
That'd be about your
I work, like I work this morning, and we're also going for our Christmas show, so thanks for having us.
Of course, the other thing about the apocalypse is if you see this symbol anywhere, stay the hell away from it. Not good.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's going on, right?
But I'm after Christmas. But I don't really like
that's great.
Yeah.
Microsoft
No way.
Economics, so your comments are very funny.
So it looks like the only content. It would look like one. Oh, that's not one of them.
I just wanted.
That's pretty sick.
Camouflage.
Who am I? Do it.
It's a mystery.
It's on a pin.
Maybe the guy that has the wrong pictures on the right. Maybe not the perfect crime.
Maybe he ate that person's brain and thinks he's dead now.
Just look at this beautifully brain ring, Robert. Whoever gets the smartest, whoever has the smartest brain,
Yeah.
that's it.
But it's just like,
You're creating zombie apocalypse.
yeah.
You guys are talking about voyager. Everyone shut up.
We have our son.
Yeah, I don't know, it might change things, right?
Julie's probably saying no.
Like,
Like, what are their smells?
I don't smell like Christ.
I don't know anything about it.
Ironic mistake.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know?
So hearing
Your site, maybe that's like,
They're discussing actually playing a couple of weeks ago what the difference.
That's what you get.
There's obviously different professions. So farmers would be grains. Plumbers would be drains.
Where's food around here?
It'll fade away.
Yeah.
Most of them. There's Denny's, Wendy's, Harvey's, Tim Hortons.
It's true. Alright, have yourself a good night. I'm stuck here for a little while still. I mean, Steve and I do some service.
Go for you, good.
Oh, God, you're teacher.
That's really good.
I think he's in this thing.
Yeah. Well, it's fun to watch her. It wasn't fun to watch 800 other people.
What are you talking about? I regret going to
Oh, but the honorary degree guy,
Rick Hansen.
it was awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's
Really good.
My honorary degree guy was Eric Newell. He was being sworn as the new chancellor, so we felt like we got really ripped up. But I got a kiss from Lois Hole.
That's pretty good.
That was pretty cool.
That's pretty good.
Smelled like flowers.
Flowers
and gold. Thanks, man.
No problem. See you later, guys.
That's great. I knew there would be a good turnout. We should have had this.
That was crazy. I was like, man, I hope it's only half full, so I don't embarrass myself.
No, this is dumb. Never, ever. Yeah.
Hey guys, how's it going? Ben, yourself? I'm sore.
It's, this is
Tired too. I've been here since 10. Well, actually since about 9:30. Means I was out of the house by 8 o'clock this morning.
For a long day?
Yeah, I'm ready to go home now, but unfortunately I can't yet. Got on-spec reads and then one more panel, then I can go. I just had a very, very long day. Excuse me. I love this connection though. You can actually plug in a Xbox or a PS2 or something to this and play it off the overheads. Oh wow. Yeah, they've got connections right here. They got USB ports. They've got a full PC port if you wanted to go PC port. And we've got full internet connection for it, audio connection, power, microphone, full computer system that shouldn't be like this. Yeah, that's what it should be. Projector system.
The rooms cost to rent?
I have no idea what the rooms cost to rent. Sweet. That's sweet. Projector.
That's all you need to do. It's going to be 45 minutes for on-spec items. I'll get it done before it starts, though. Yeah, I'm thinking about possibly running down and grabbing a donut or something.